Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting shortly after everyone arrives. Thank you. We're good. We good? Y'all ready? Good morning, everyone. The quarterly meeting of the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council will now come to order. It is 8:45, right? Yes. Thank you for everyone who's attending today. For virtual meeting protocol, here we go. For committee members and members of the public attending in person, please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversations to a minimum and comments related to the topic we are discussing as well. For those committee members who are attending virtually, remember you must be on camera and have your first and last name showing to be counted toward our quorum. Please keep microphones muted unless called upon by the chair. Electronically raise your hand to request to speak and wait to be called on. For attendees, electronically raise your hand to request to speak. Once recognized by the chair, your microphone will be turned on. After speaking, the microphone will be returned to mute. Also, the Q&A is to only be used by those needing an ADA accommodation to participate in the meeting. Public comment will not be accepted via the Q&A except for those individuals who requested the accommodation. As for order, committee members in person and virtually will be allowed to speak first. Public members in person will then be called on, followed by public participating virtually who have their hands raised. Comments in the Q&A and chat will be addressed last. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of all of those wanting to speak in person and virtually. We ask that you be patient. All comments and questions from committee members and the public may be limited should we run into time constraints. So please keep that in mind. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have the opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during designated public comment periods. Public members will be given one opportunity to speak for each agenda item and will be limited to 2 minutes. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. Right? Thank you. Good morning. Will Ebony please call the roll for attendance?
After I call your name, say present or Ms. Dooley.
Here.
Dr. Vecchio.
Here.
Ms. Bayham.
Here.
Mr. Bennett.
Here.
Mr. Billings.
Present.
Ms. Crane.
Here.
Mr. Ennis. Ms. Hagan.
Here.
Ms. Hano.
Here.
Ms. Harmon.
Here.
Ms. Heimel. Rosalind, can you hear us? Okay, I'll keep going till you guys proceed. So whatever's going on. Ms. Jordan?
Present.
Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek? Tony, can you unmute?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Ms. Stewart? Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Ms. Washington?
Here.
Ms. Webb?
Here.
Dr. Wilson? Ms. Womack?
Here.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we will have Vivian Webb read the mission statement.
To increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianians with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and system change.
Thank you, Vivian. And we will have Sharia Dooley read the ground rules.
Members must be recognized by the chair before speaking. Be respectful of each other's opinions. We will break for 10 minutes every 1.5 hours. Discuss council business in a responsible manner. except as necessary, restrict the use of electronic communication during the council and committee meetings, silence or turn off all cell phones. The mission statement is posted at every meeting. Be on time for meetings, no alphabets, and side conversations are kept to a minimum, done quietly and restricted to the subject at hand.
Thank you, Meg. The next item of business is the approval of the meeting summary. A draft of the July 18th meeting summary was distributed to everyone. The summary will not be read unless requested by a member. Are there any corrections to be made? If there are no objections, the meeting summary is approved as distributed.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a correction. Mr. Tony Piontek was mistakenly put on the members that were absent. And I will make that correction to put that he was here.
Okay.
He's present.
All right,
That's
thank
the
you.
one.
Thank you. Any other corrections? Right, Ebony will fix that. If there is no objection, the meeting summary is approved as corrected. Hearing none, the meeting summary is approved. The next item of business is the chair's report. Right. The executive committee met yesterday and has 2 recommendations to present to the council. The committee discussed the council's mission statement for the new 5-year plan, 2027 to 2031, that the council approved at the July meeting. The council staff made a recommendation for a more accessible and easy-to-read mission statement since the council is working on redesigning the council website, including working on plain language documents. The committee added more clarification to the end of the statement on full inclusion. Therefore, the committee has this recommendation to offer for the council's consideration. Ebony, will you play it for us? So, yep. So, So the motion was the executive committee recommends approval of the revised mission statement for the new 27 to 31 state plan. And it is to help Louisianians with intellectual and developmental disabilities live more independently, make their own choices, be more productive, and be fully included in all aspects of community living. We now need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yes, Ebony.
Since it's coming from a committee, that, okay.
Okay. This one. It is moved to accept the new mission statement with the revisions. If the motion is coming up from a committee, it does not have to be seconded. It does not require a second, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion from council members? The committee also discussed the, which one? Okay, I'm sorry, is there any public comment about the new mission statement?
No public comment.
So here's the question, and it is on us approving the revised mission statement for the new 2027-2031 mission statement. We will have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to accept the revised mission statement, when your name is called, say yes. If you're opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Mr. Dooley?
Yes.
Mr. Dooley, yes. Dr. Baravecchio? Yes. Dr. Baravecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Hano? Yes. Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Himal? Ms. Okay. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piante? You're muted, Tony. Can you unmute for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Is your vote yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Piante, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart? Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson? Ms. Walmack?
Yes.
Ms.
I'm
Walmack,
s-
yes.
Can I vote yes? This is Brooke Stewart.
Oh, yeah, she's here now.
Sorry,
Ms.
I missed
Stewart?
roll call.
That's okay. Ms. Stewart, yes. And that's 18 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions.
All right. And the yeses have it and the motion is adopted. Thank you. So the committee then discussed the council papers, the position papers for the new 5-year plan 2027-2031 that the council approved at the July meeting. The council develops policy position statements and papers in our areas of emphasis and regarding current issues being considered by policy makers, including community supports, self-determination, inclusion, healthcare, inclusive education, and employment. These positions are based on the council's core values of independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for all Louisiana citizens with developmental disabilities, and can be used in advocating for improved services and supports for people with developmental disabilities and their families. The council staff made updates again to make the language more accessible and easy to read for our new 5-year plan. Therefore, the committee has this recommendation to offer for the council's consideration. Ebony. So the motion is on the screen for the executive committee to recommend approval of the revised position papers for the new 2027-2031 state plan.
Ebony, can you read case Greg Garcia?
It is moved to accept this motion. I need a motion, I'm sorry.
It's coming from a committee again.
Motion. Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry. Because the motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Is there any discussion from council members? Is there any public comment?
The public comment.
Right. So the question is on the executive committee recommending the approval of the position papers for the 2027-2031 state plan. And we have to have a roll call. All right. If you are, we have to have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to accept the position papers for the state plan 2027-2031, when your name is called, say yes. If you're opposed, say no. And if you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Mr. Dooley?
Yes.
Mr. Dooley, yes. Dr. Barravecchio?
Yes.
Dr. Barravecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Hano?
Yes.
Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel? She's back. She's back.
I'm right here,
So this
if you call me.
Yes, Rosalind, would you like to vote for approval of the position papers? You can say yes to vote for the approval or no, not to vote for the approval.
Yes, I would like to vote.
Okay, what would you like to vote, yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piantek? You have to unmute, Tony.
Yes.
Mr. Piatek, yes. Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson? And Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 18 yeas, 19 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions.
The yeses have it and the motion is adopted. The next thing that the committee discussed was the upcoming council member retreat. At the July meeting, the executive committee gave the executive director feedback during her quarterly evaluation. It included the desire to have a council member retreat. Ebony and the staff have recommended adding an extra day to the January 2025 quarterly meeting to conduct the retreat with the ultimate goal of council members getting to know each other better and working together better as a unit. The committee discussed the desire to have both a learning and training portion and a getting to know each other better portion by having a self-introduction activity similar to partners in policymaking. Lastly, the committee conducted the second quarterly evaluation for our new executive director. According to the council bylaws, the executive committee has to perform an evaluation on a newly hired ED every quarter. The full council will evaluate the executive director at the April 2025 meeting, which is her anniversary date. The survey, I'm sorry.
It is.
Mhm. The survey results were very positive feedback on what a great job the ED has been doing since hired. There is one area of improvement that the director is currently addressing with the council retreat. There was also comments and suggestions about how the council staff can increase the council's presence on social media by collecting more pictures from contractors, getting short videos from council members to create reels, and maybe going live for some events and initiatives the council is funding. Right? The next item of business, I'm sorry, are there any questions from council members on the executive director's? Wait. Apologize. Is the executive director's report, Ebony?
Can you guys put it in? So I'm not gonna, the executive director's report is included in the package. I'm not gonna read it to you guys, but I do want to kind of highlight some things. Just the action plan for FY 2025, your action plan was, I'm sorry, yeah, for 2025, I'm getting my fiscal years mixed up because we're already talking about action plan 2026 already. But the FY 25 action plan was submitted to the Office for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, OIDD, on August 9th, and we received approval for your plan on September 24th. So that plan is approved by the feds and we are ready to rock and roll. Our program performance report, or our PPR, for FY 24, or your FY 24 action plan, is due at the end of December. So after this meeting, we will be in full PPR mode. I do want to also point out some of the professional development for staff. Stephanie and I attended the 2024 National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities, or NACDD conference in Washington, DC, July 22nd through the 25th. The Information and Technical Assistance Center for Councils on Developmental Disabilities, or ITEC, held technical assistance sessions on the 22nd and 23rd. And the 22nd session focused on managing key aspects throughout a project's life cycle. And this included information on how to write a solicitation of proposals, or an RFP or SOP, what to include to attract competitive bids, how to score competitive bids, including things such as anonymous review, and how to manage a grantee or a contractor once they are awarded the grant and throughout the contract period. Finally, they also gave us some technical assistance on how to collect the data that's needed for every council for our PPRs, or our program performance reports. We had a lot of in-house revamping of our processes this past quarter. The staff spent a lot of time revamping our contract process where we are holding, I'll just give props to Stephanie because she did a lot of work on this. She created a grants manual. We took a look at some other councils who had grants manuals. Texas was one of them. They had a really great grants manual that we used as a guide for ours. So now we are giving that grants manual to our contractors now. We are also in the process of holding contractor and grantee orientations so that our contractors know how to collect the information that we need for our PPR, but also how to invoice, how to do travel, because some of our invoices are confused. They get sent back because of the travel. So we're just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page, that our contractors know how to invoice. They know what we're looking for as far as our PPR data, but also the data that the council needs in order to make sure that that initiative is going well. We also spent a lot of time because at the July meeting, there was a request for the council to collect their own survey data. So the council staff spent some time, I don't want to say hours. We spent some time on creating a survey where we will send out to the participants of our initiatives directly so that we can collect that information from them directly. We did send out the survey to a couple of our self-advocate council members to make sure that the questions were readable and understandable. We got positive feedback, so we're going to make sure that we are collecting that information and sharing it at our quarterly meetings here on out. Also at the NACDD conference, there was a new executive director development training session where they discussed requirements included in the DD Act about the purpose and mandate of each council, lobbying versus educating or advocating, how to manage our federal budgets, and tips on how to collect information for the council's comprehensive review analysis or the CRA for the state plan development for our next 5-year plan. And there was also this great state and territory showcase that they had where each DD council was able to showcase an initiative that they were really proud of, that we are funding, and also just to kind of bring out some unique things from each state. Of course, Stephanie and I did Mardi Gras because that's really unique to Louisiana, and we had beads. Stephanie found beads. Our administrative assistant also donated some of her beads. So we were able to give beads away at the NACDD conference. It was a big hit. They really loved it. Next year, we're going to have to step up our game because Virginia had a person playing colonial music at their at their station. So that was really cool. I guess next time we'll have to have some Zydeco music or something like that. Also in staff development, we do have a new executive director for NACDD, Ms. Jill Jacobs, and Region 6 had her CEO onboarding meeting. Region 6, Louisiana is included, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, and I'm missing someone, Arkansas. So all of the executive directors were able to meet with Jill Jacobs, our new executive director for NACDD. We were able to talk about political climates in our state. We were also able to talk about challenges and concerns, the new vision for NACDD with Jill Jacobs. But also we were able to invite some of our leaders. They wanted us to invite leadership council members. Unfortunately, Christy wasn't available, but Jill was able to get on, and so was Brooklyn. And we were able to highlight some of our initiatives, and we highlighted LaCan, YLF.
Partners.
We did partners?
Also,
Okay, we might have did partners.
we did first responder
yes.
training, emergency management.
So we highlighted all of those, and that meeting was really, really great. I'm really excited about the new executive director for NACDD. She is going to be revamping things, sort of like we are here at the council as well. I don't think that they're planning to have an NACDD conference next year because she's trying to revamp things and just kind of make sure people are getting what they need out of that conference. So That was an exciting meeting. And then the last one I kind of want to mention was the Executive Director Leadership Summit that I attended, September 23rd through the 26th. Every ED, not all the EDs attended, unfortunately, but the EDs that were there had the opportunity to share thoughts, concerns, opportunities, promising practices, including how to better incorporate our self-advocates and how to better support them during our council meetings, and just ideas on how to effectively operate our DD councils. So those are some things that I kind of wanted to highlight, but then I also want to highlight one other thing, and that's our staff changes. If you guys can join me in congratulating Ms. Rakisha Branch. She is our new program manager. Took the vacant spot that Brenton left in that program manager position. Rakisha has been with the council for 2 years, and she has years of experience in the disability community in various avenues, including support coordination and direct support professionals. So we're really happy to have her move into that position. And we have posted the monitor position that she vacated. We have gotten, I think we received maybe 85 applications. So we plan to have that position filled by the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Christy, I'm willing to take any questions if anybody has any.
Rosalind has me. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, whenever the grant policy and procedure thing is finished, is that something y'all could give to the council or that y'all plan on posting online?
Yeah, it's actually online. Yeah. So anybody that's interested in contracting with the council, they can go on that page in the website.
Okay,
Yes.
contract with them. Great, awesome, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Eric?
Do y'all have a gap on, do you have a close on the application, or is it still open? Y'all still receiving application, and y'all hiring somebody that's disabled? And that's
You're talking about for Rakisha's position. So yeah, it closed. I can't remember when it closed, but it closed in September. As with all of our spots here, our open, our vacant positions, Eric, we encourage anyone to apply, including, we encourage individuals with disabilities to apply for those positions. We definitely want to make sure people feel comfortable applying, and we include that information in the job posting.
Any other questions?
We do have a hand raised, Ms. Rosalind Heimel.
Go ahead, Ms. Rosalind.
Yeah, for the budgeting that I was hearing about, and that, how is that going to be, now going out to different places? Is that going to be still published to centers, or is that going out in the communities, or what? Because I am working over at Cafe Latida and that, so is that going to be like in general for
So
budgeting?
are you talking about the budget reports that we included in the packet, Rosalind?
Yes, I am.
So those budget reports went out to all the council members. It's on the website, so anyone can access those budget reports. If anybody requests them, we can send it to them. I hope that answers the question, but I'm not sure.
But
We also have another hand raised,
Who is it?
Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
Ms. Kathy?
Wait,
I'm sorry, Tony has his hand raised as well.
Oh, Tony?
you have to unmute Tony.
Time to unmute. When you mentioned those positions, is that readily available for like anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Anyone can apply,
okay.
except for council members.
Okay.
What is it, 2 years?
You have to wait for 2 years before you're able to be a staff member.
Oh,
Okay.
And now Ms. Kathy Dwyer. Kathy Dwyer.
Ms. Kathy?
Thank you. Regarding the council positions that are open and being advertised, are you sending those announcements through the DD Council newsletter and to self-advocate organizations like People First to try to help those with disabilities to be aware of the positions and be able to apply?
So we did share it through an LADDC news, and we did also share it on our social media. No, Miss Kathy, we didn't send it to any other organizations, but that's definitely something that we can look into doing in the future for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely at least include People First and any other organizations in future announcements. I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? No one? This report requires no action and we placed on file. Before we move on to the budget report, I failed to mention something. This August, in my executive committee report, chair report, this summer in August, myself and Julie Hagan were asked by the Department of Labor to participate with the Cape Youth National Working Collaboration Group. And what it is for transition for students going from high school onto employment in the future. And so we were there for 2 days. Oh, yeah, there was two, something like that. And it was very eye-opening. So in your packet, we included this, and it shows you all of the gaps in collaboration from different entities that are missing. And we hope to, by next June, have, or attempt to have a one-day summit to have all our stakeholders involved so we can close these gaps for the people in Louisiana. Say something else.
Yeah, so she put this handout in here and I know y'all just looked at me and said, what the heck? So what they tried to do is say, if you think about a person with a disability in their family, and it was focused on transition age youth going to employment, but it could be about everybody. They tried to live like these are all of the systems that you have to navigate. So they were trying to say and it was policymakers who were invited. So it's kind of like each of us live in our own little world, but let's kind of step back and think about the person with the disability and them having to navigate this. And so all these different lines we're trying to say, they've got, and a lot of us are at the table now, the folks that they were saying, but still trying to navigate each of our different worlds can definitely be overwhelming. So what they were really trying to get at and what we hope to focus on in the summit is and we also had Courtney Phillips representing the Department of Higher Education and
Department of Justice.
Shoot, I forgot her name.
DOJ.
Someone from Office of Juvenile Justice. And so what we hope to do during the summit that we'll have in June is to reach out to others that kind of are associated with all this so we can put us all together as policymakers to start to think about what are things, like there's probably a lot of stuff that we're duplicating. And that was the other thing they talked about is not duplicating, but how do you have kind of like a strategically thinking about everything that's going on to help you move into the world of employment. And so they didn't kind of tell us, they didn't suggest a summit. Actually, they talked about this ladder and said, how do you collaborate? And on that last page, it's kind of like judge yourself. And we started not all with Louisiana, but then the second part of the day, we all got together and we decided there is no none. There's very limited collaboration right now focused on that. We all know who each other are. We all talk to each other, but not necessarily the collaboration we need. And so that's where the idea of a summit came from. And the engagement that we're on, the only other thing I'd add, Christy, is it's a 2-year engagement. And so the people from Council on State Government and Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODAP, they have representatives that are willing to come to our state, that are willing to help lead the discussions around, collaboration and whatnot. And, they said, you do a summit, we'll come, we'll help facilitate, we'll help do what we need to. So I think we will be, if your name is on here, we'll probably be reaching out to you. And like Jamar, even if your name's not on here, we're reaching out to you too, to try to pull together the right people to do kind of that planning summit.
Yeah. And it's more like to make it a one-stop shop for families and students to get all the information from one place instead of having to go search to find everything. So if we put everything in one place from all of these agencies, it would be so much more beneficial for these families and students and adults as well. That way, they don't have to spend hours searching for what they need. And that's what we hope to do. So that's with this packet. Yes, Lauren?
I was just thinking, did the other states, a way that they collaborated on this, did they have like a hub website where it would like do like this? Because this kind of looks like a computer program or
Yes, and
kind
a lot
of
of
thing, you know what I'm
this is
saying?
like from all the states, I think meshed together. And I think one state has it, I think it's Florida, has everything.
Yeah, that's one of the ones.
On one page, and it's it's wonderful. And that's something we hope to duplicate and have in our state. That's, and that's why we want to have the summit to where we can have all this information pulled together and that they can just click on it and then go to that department or that agency.
That might be something to think about for our 5-year plan.
So they had 6 states, 6 different states that they invited. So there are 6 states that are part of this. They did do an iteration, something like this.
Have the
before.
PowerPoint, yeah.
But we're kind of the first group trying to tackle this.
Yeah.
So, and I can't even
learning
remember all
experience.
6 states.
New
But then
Mexico was one,
New Hampshire, New Mexico,
Virginia, and I don't remember the rest.
So we'll do
sorry.
some things working with those other states and then some things individual. The thing that I thought was really cool is they also had, I think it was about 10 youth with disabilities who joined us. And they had gone through some different trainings around how advocacy sounded similar probably to what they do in
Like
partners and
YLF.
whatnot. So they sat at the table with us. So the idea is to have youth who are seeking employment. And one lady from California, she's like awesome. She's already friended me on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
She's looking for all
Yeah.
kind of job. Like she's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's not just policymakers, but people with lived experience that will be at the table with us, and we're there for the in-person meeting that we had for the 2 days.
And like the students and their families were there, but the families interacted, but didn't have any, not have any say, but it was mostly the students who were engaging and leading some of the tables and providing feedback. So it was wonderful. It was very eye-opening. Melissa?
I just want to add, I was actually invited to that, but I had a scheduling conflict. But the Workforce Commission, they're working on a one-door approach for workforce, which a lot of the things about workforce and also social services. So I think this work I think there's a lot of, I think we can collaborate and, yeah, absolutely.
Love to have you.
Did you say Florida had a great working example of this on the
Yeah, I think
webpage?
it's Florida, Laura. Yes.
Yes.
If you look under, I forgot the website, but they have everything, even like boys and girls clubs.
And you can print it out
You can
too.
print it out. You
The
can click on the
transition
website.
guide.
There's a ton of stuff. I just don't remember the exact website
I can look it up for you.
to go
What one
to.
are, right?
I remember
Yeah,
we previously, a couple of months ago, looked at it. But I don't think there's any other state that has, I'm not too sure, has anything similar to it. But I think but theirs was very, very thorough, from the top on down to, like I said, Boys and Girls Clubs, Rotary Clubs, you know, the gamut. So, but this is something we hope to share with everybody, and if you'd like to participate, we'd love to have you. Something we hope to, you know, continue. Yes, ma'am.
So Christy, operationally, like, who do we see owning this project? Like, is this the council? Is this gonna fall under families helping families? Like, who's taking the lead here?
I guess it was just anybody from Louisiana. We just thought we'd share the information with the Department of Labor. The 4 people who attended from Louisiana got together, and we were sitting at the table like, we need to like do something. We just came together like, we need to put all this information together because it's all spread out. If you look at the packet, it's very eye-opening. And we just decided that we needed to do something to bring it all closer together so we can collaborate, not remake the wheel, but to bring everyone closer together. So it's easier for our families to navigate this transition for these children. It is very hard. And you're going many different directions, especially with the different waivers and such, and especially with employment, and should they stay in school or should they not? So it's a lot of information for our families. We can do it since we're already on the council, we can keep it, you know, do it as a council. We can add it to our 5-year plan if we choose to. So that's something we can decide, you know, later on. But it's not about owning it, you know.
No, I'm just saying, like, we don't want to kick it out there and we just kick the can down the road. Like, who's owning the project so that we can stay on it and make sure that it's done?
Well, me and Julie are already on the team. So,
I was gonna say that that last page, all of the folks that are listed here can have a seat. And so so to be honest, one of the things we talked about is I just randomly got an email from somebody at Council on State Government that I just happened to answer. And a lot of us as state agency folks get things all the time that we're not, it's like, what's going on with this? Are you trying to sell me something? Are you trying to get me to pay money for something? So one of the things that we will be doing, since it's a 2-year, and the Council of State Government will be leading the initiative, is one of the takeaways we had is we need to invite people from each of these things because they'll have virtual meetings, I think quarterly, and then they'll do another in-person meeting a year from now. But they also gave us the ability to add. So we had already added GODA and some other folks that would have an interface here. And so it's not like they're limited to who can be a part of this, but they did encourage us to have more agencies to the table. And so that more than just, you know, the 4 of us who paid attention to the email that we got.
and we didn't know, we didn't believe the email.
Yeah.
You know, we Googled it and we all said the same thing. We researched it to make sure it was credible. So, and after we looked at it and we were like, oh, yes. And then, I think in March, you and I talked about it. And we're like, oh, I received that email too. And then Melissa said she received that email. So it was something that we thought was very beneficial to our state. And the 4 of us are going to work together with whoever else would love to be part of it. We invite y'all to say yes. Jill?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm missing something here. Because when I heard y'all say collaboration, like in my simple mind, I'm like, well, we have the BD network, and I'm like, in last quarter, we were told it was kind of back on track, but then I get this and I'm kind of confused. What is your goal? And if anyone has seen the movie Philadelphia, explain it to me like I'm a 4-year old Philadelphia quote.
So you want me to take a stab at it? I think the end goal is not to reinvent the wheel or to, you know, it may be that we need some type of a tool or a resource. I think the end goal is that and even within DD Network, some of the people that are involved here are not even normally at the table, like Social Security. But how often do you talk about somebody with disabilities is scared to get a job because if they get a job, then they're not going to get the support that they need to be able to work. And so we need Social Security at the table, and they're not normally here. So how do we start to think about some of those folks in addition to, and then, we know that there's things Melissa does in LRS, we know there's things that happen with Department of Ed, but we don't, there's not like one place
So it's
where we all know what each other is doing.
creating a resource for all these
Yes.
like
That's our end goal.
entities to collaborate. Okay. Cool.
So if we were to bring them to the table, we would also have to increase the number of like self-advocates and such. We actually discussed this, when we were like the bylaws committee, but we don't have the funding to increase everything right now, I don't think. So first we would have to acquire the funding.
How was that? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Ms. Meredith, do you have a question?
I just wanted to make a couple of connections as we're listening. Melissa and I attended a national transition conference too, where the Cape Youth Group was there. It looks like they're extending some of that work, which is exciting. I would love to go as well. And one of our plans around transition with our transition grant that we got, and it's a year 2 or 3 activity, is to create, in terms of the department, sort of a transition hub. I think all these things can like work together.
Yeah.
And that is, I think some of the work that we do here will help inform me for our transition hub and all the resources we want to pull together around all of these. Like you said, it's a complex thing to navigate for our children, our families as they're making those next steps and transitioning. So it's really exciting to hear about. And I was even thinking, Melissa, about, I don't know if anyone else here or if they shared it at this particular convening, and I was making a connection to our retreat about the ride along and the viewing that we had, and it went through through the eyes of a now adult with a disability, and how he progressed through education and all of these transitional experiences and working and all the things. And it was really great for us to do at our retreat, Ebony. I'll share with you some of that. And it was just really eye-opening, and it ties into the things we were talking about earlier with our mission statement and inclusion, and how, because he talks about even in his educational experiences, something I'm very interested in are student-led IEPs, right? And how we can get students more of a voice, starting early on. So just a lot of connections and excitement going on for me that I think we
in my 30 years, I've only had one student add something to their IEP, and it was last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was amazed. So it does, and it really is. So, Lauren?
So I have 2 ideas. One, maybe establish, if y'all want to do it through this, we could do like the ad hoc committee, Julie, or whatever would be easiest. Just to get it started, and then if it's something beyond the DD council, we just hand it off just for sake of getting started or getting the number. And maybe inviting like someone from the workforce board, the LWC board, the LRC board, school board, or Melissa, if you participate, just like somebody from these different boards. And then if we, because ideally ours is easy because it's all virtual, but a lot of these board meetings, if you don't go in person, you can't go. So it might be good to start with us, and then, we can have those virtual meetings.
And we can speak more about this,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you want to do like an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
that might be something.
Okay, well, thank y'all for letting us stick that in. I just wanted to let you know what those papers were in reference to. And like I said, it was very eye-opening, and thank y'all for that allowing us to go over that. Oh,
Raised.
with that,
There, we have some hands raised.
Okay.
Mr. Tony have his hand raised and also Miss Kathy Dwight.
Tony. You have to unmute Tony.
Tony.
I'd like to be a part of that.
Yes, I'll have your name down, Tony.
Okay.
Miss Roslyn has her hand raised.
Miss Kathy was next.
She's
Okay.
Miss Roslyn?
Yeah, you can give me a little bit more information on for what you was just talking about, because
Yes, we can email it to you, Rosalind, the packet. I just gave it to them last night. I'm sorry. We can email it to you.
can you?
Every-
Because
Yes.
I would like to read up on it. And
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Miss Kathy Dwight.
Miss Kathy?
Thank you. I apologize. I missed part of the conversation in the beginning, but definitely heard about collaborating. So I'm not sure how far you want to reach with collaborating with other agencies, but if it's appropriate, given I missed the first part of the discussion, I think it would be beneficial to have health standards involved as well. It seems like they operate in a silo when it comes to disability issues.
And we can email this to you as well, Miss Kathy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. The next item of business is the budget report. The chair recognizes Ebony Haven for the report.
Okay, so there are two budget reports that are included in your packet. One is the end of year for FY 24. Whenever I presented the budget in July, we hadn't received all of our invoices and all of our bills hadn't been all paid yet. So I did kind of want to go over closing costs if you guys can pull it up. Just closing, there's a column on the end of year budget report that says closing. And so those were some additional invoices that came through. It wasn't much. You can kind of look at the total at the bottom. It was about $166,000. Just kind of keep in mind whenever you're looking at the totals, we were short-staffed because a lot of the balance is from personal services. We were short-staffed after the previous executive director resigned. I wasn't officially hired on until April as the executive director, so we were without a deputy director for that. So that kind of clears up that budget balance, but also just remember we are saving lots of money in our total travel costs because we're having the meetings in our building and we're not renting a hotel or anything like that. I know that we have several council members that are interested in attending more conferences, so that kind of frees up some money for individuals to do that. But also, I think that was the only two things I kind of wanted to point out. As you can see, some of the money was contractual. If you look at total contracts, we did have a balance of about 68,000. All of our contractors weren't able to spend all of their funding. And that's one thing that we want to, as we move forward, at the EDLS or the Executive Director Leadership Summit, I was able to connect with the Missouri Council, and I really like the way that they presented their budget. I kind of want the council to take a more active role in kind of keeping track of how our contractors, our grantees are using their funding, if they're spending all their funding. I kind of just want you all to take a more active role in that. So we'll be presenting the budget just a little bit differently, sort of moving forward. Christie, Lauren has her hand raised.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry,
Do
Lauren,
you
go ahead.
think that'll help us when we're trying to allocate money for? Because yeah, that was really hard knowing how much money for different contracts would cost.
Yes,
And I
absolutely,
feel like we
Lauren.
might have been over. Maybe
You might have over allocated.
Underkill on something.
So I will just say this, the ITech training that Stephanie and I attended at the NACPD conference, they gave us a lot of information about how to put out our SOPs. And one of the things was to make sure that the people that are applying for your grants include information about how they are going to spend the funding. And so I guess the revamping that we're doing in-house is to make sure that we're managing and monitoring our contractors just a little bit better. When we see they're falling behind on spending that funding, we need to come up with contingency plans and helping them to make sure that they spend all of their funding that you guys allocate to those activities.
Okay, great. Oh, also, what, do we have like any like, council training or anything in the budget?
So that travel will help us with our council retreat too. So that the council retreat that you guys are requesting that we're probably gonna have at the January meeting, a lot of that will come from that travel.
And do we have a line for like, or what comes out, like if we wanted to do some more council trainings?
There's no specific line for that, but I'm sure it would fall in, it will fall in there. I'm pretty sure it would probably still fall under travel, even though it doesn't seem like it would, it probably would.
Jill?
I do have a recommendation, thank you, for the retreat, but I don't know if right now is appropriate.
So Christie included it with her chairperson's report, but Jill, I'm willing to accept any recommendations you guys have at any time, including now.
Cause I don't like, and I know that this can't be like a mandate or mandatory or whatever, but like when you think of retreat and like part of it is getting to know your fellow council members, like I don't think that like I think it would be better to have a retreat that is a 100% in-person thing. Like, I don't know how I can get to know you when you're just a squirrel computer screen. I mean, what's that too hard to What's that too
That's actually cool, I mean.
Yeah. Yes,
We do have a hand raised.
okay.
Ms. Rosalind Highmore.
Ms. Rosalind?
Yeah, for one, I am really concerned about, second quarter and the third quarter. It's like 113 and 552, and that's in the red. And that really concerns me about it. So what happened with the second and the third quarter of the budgeting for this year?
Okay, so Rosalind, that 552 in red, since it's in parentheses, that means they refunded us. So I think it was a travel ticket that one of our council members didn't end up needing. And so the airline refunded us money. So we actually got that $552 back.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why it was in red like that.
Yes, that's why. That's why.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Jill?
sorry. I was paying attention. Why aren't there two reports?
So in July, whenever I presented the budget, we hadn't received all of our bills and all of our invoices yet. So I did want to give you all a close out fiscal year 24 budget, just to show you the rest of the invoices that we received. So if you look at that closing column, those are the additional invoices that we received, sort of like after the fiscal year, after that June 30th deadline.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members on the report? The report requires no action and be placed in the file. The next item of business is the committee reports. Our first report is the Act 378 subcommittee. The chair recognizes Bambi Polisoa for the report.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
We
Can
can
hear me?
Yes.
So the Act 378 subcommittee met yesterday, and we do not have any recommendations for the council to consider. We did spend some time reviewing fiscal year 24 year-end data and fiscal year 25 first quarter data for programs within the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities and Behavioral Health, and the Aging and Adult Services through the ARC of Louisiana. These reports can be found linked on our committee agenda on the council's meetings webpage if you'd like to review. Now, looking at all of the reports, I'm happy to report that no LGE will need to submit a corrective action plan for fiscal year 24, as they have all expended the necessary funding to serve families in their area. OCDD provided us with an end of the year individual and family support program priority request and expenditure report. That is a lengthy report that's linked on the council's page, meeting page. This is a really great report. It shows what requests are being received and funded in each region. And there were nearly 4,000 contracts completed with over $7.5 million spent on this program. And if y'all see Brenton twitching, that's because I'm deviating from the report that he gave us. I just wanted to really, I really wanted to highlight this. $7.5 million were spent, and this provides our local government entities really the opportunity to be really responsive to our community. And that exists because of advocacy. And Act 378 was passed in 1989, which was 35 years ago. So I say all that to say is that advocacy matters, and to make sure that we follow up and we're consistent in making sure that what we advocate for continues to be, and also thinking about the vision that those people had 35 years ago, and realize that 35 years from now, what will we leave for people? This is something that's great, that even, sometimes somebody only needs $100 or maybe $1,000 for something that they really need, and it can really change the trajectory of the family, the quality of their life. So this is really important. So I just wanted to press upon that point to you guys today. We did spend some time discussing some of the things that they had in that report, and like incontinence supplies, and requests for these supplies were down from previous years, likely due to incontinence supplies being added as a service in the waiver. However, there's been many complaints from waiver recipients and families about the quality of those supplies. So Julie Foster Hagan with OCDD stated that the department was aware of the issue and working to find a resolution to ensure individuals get the supplies that meet their needs. As in previous years, there are a lot of individuals that utilize vocational supports through the Individual and Family Support Program. We asked the department to find out how many LGEs are trying to emphasize integrated employment as an option rather than dayhab or sheltered workshops. We also noticed an increase in startup funding in the IFS program. This funding is used to help individuals purchase things that they need to move into their own home. This is a positive thing as it suggests that individuals are receiving the supports they need to live independently and help move them into residential settings. We also asked the department to share information at future meetings regarding the amount of individuals that transition out of residential placement with a waiver and opt to return to the residential placement. We also had a few questions for the Office of Behavioral Health that they followed up on regarding the consumer care resources and the supported living programs. These questions centered on funds being used for school credit recovery and driver education courses. There was also a discussion about having the LGEs present their application process for the community care resources at future meetings. And finally, there were a couple of the LGEs that expended all of their supported living funds in the first quarter of this fiscal year. We asked OBH to follow up for an explanation. And that is the end of my report. Any questions?
Dr. Bambi? Do we have anything? All right. The report requires no action and will be placed on file. The next item of business is the report from the Self-Determination Committee, Inclusion Committee, and Community Inclusion Committee. The chair recognizes Angela Harmon for the report.
Thank you, Christy. The Self-Determination and the Community Inclusion Committee met yesterday and does not have any recommendations to present to council. We received a lot of great updates during the meeting from our state agency representatives and staff. During our meeting, Ms. Julie Foster Hagan with the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities shared multiple updates about the department. Many of these updates can be found on her agency report. A couple of things I wanted to mention. They are hosting road shows again to discuss OCDD's initiatives. A LADDC news was sent out sharing the dates and times. So I encourage you to try and participate either in person or at the virtual sessions. The rate of methodology study we have been talking about in the committee is underway with an anticipated date of June to receive results. There will be an informational service session about the process held on October 28th from 2:30 to 3:30. This is a free virtual session, but you must register to attend. A LADDC news was sent out earlier this morning with details, so please check your inboxes or the council's website. We also discussed the predicted fiscal cliff our state will be facing next year. If revenue is not identified, it is possible that LDH will sustain massive cuts to many services and programs that support our DD population. If you would like to see the potential cuts, they are linked in our committee agenda on the council meeting page. The committee received an update on Families Helping Families of NOLA. As you may recall, last year, Families Helping Families of NOLA was placed on probationary status due to ongoing concerns noted in multiple audits. The council decided in April to restore partial funding to the center in fiscal year 25, with full restoration of funding dependent on successful fiscal year 24 legislative audit. Prior to processing Family Helping Families NOLA fiscal year 25 contract, council staff was informed of possible misappropriation or misuse of funds by leadership. The director abruptly resigned, and it was also reported that the center was unable to pay its staff. All staff was either terminated, quit, or laid off for an unspecified amount of time. This information was confirmed in a meeting between council staff and the former Families Helping Families NOLA interim director and the former board president. Based on the information provided to the council staff, it was apparent the center would be unable to fulfill any contractual requirements, and the center was notified the center will not be issuing a contract for fiscal year 25. We also discussed the contractual activities under goals 1 and 2 in our plan. I encourage you to review the status of planned activities document in your meeting packet for updates on those initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Is there any questions from the council members on the report? Dale?
I'm just curious, just throwing it on record, how is it considered that she resigned abruptly when in April she told us that or a year ago, she told us that she was gonna resign, just that it had been. That's it, thank you.
Is there any public comment?
No.
All right. The report requires no action.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Ms. Kathy, do I just raise her hand?
Ms. Kathy, go ahead.
Sorry, regarding the report on FHF NOLA, is anything being done to reach out to families that were using them as a resource to let them know they could reach out elsewhere, such as Families Helping Families of Greater New Orleans? Because I've received emails from 2 former employees who were very concerned about the families in their area, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody that has access to their mailing list or something to at least do some kind of outreach. I don't even know if they still have a social media page, but families need to know where else they can go if they're not operating anymore.
Yeah, we don't have access to their listserv to be able to send any information to those that have signed up to receive newsletters from them. That's not something we have access to. And we haven't been able to reach any supposed staff that might still be there to see if they have been notifying anyone or what their plan is to continue services. We mentioned in committee yesterday, there was an update on the Secretary of State's website that suggested they may have hired a new director and had a new board president. So I'm not certain at this time if they are continuing operations or what their plan is. Without a contract in place on our part, we can't require them to submit any sort of information to us or provide any details about their status to us. But the families that are reaching out to our office directly, we do try to direct them to other resources out in the greater New Orleans area to make sure that they have whatever supports that they need.
Thank you, Brenton.
I thought about a question last night. So with the funding that will not be going out to them, the extra funding will just be distributed to the other families helping families? Or we haven't decided yet?
It depends. So we're trying to find out what's going on with that particular center, because that would determine what might be a viable path. Lots of folks have mentioned there is another center in the New Orleans area. We have not heard anything if they would be interested in a contract. We have not had those discussions yet. So that is a possibility. Our funding alone can't sustain a new center. We've gotten calls from people that ask, why don't you start another center? Our funding alone is not going to be able to sustain a center. So we were also trying to find out what other funders from those center or what other funders of that center were planning to do.
Right.
Some have already moved on to other organizations. Some are still trying to figure out what's going on in NOLA. to see if they can contract with them. So there's a lot of uncertainties at the moment that we need clarification on before we can make a determination of how we best proceed. But if for some reason we get to a point in the fiscal year where it's unlikely that we're gonna have someone to contract with, then we would disperse that to the other centers to make sure that we are able to utilize that funding and then figure out what funding we get for Families Helping Families next year.
As a council, could we, and this might be something that we need to vote on, or I need to make a motion. Could we do a formal letter and reach out to the other New Orleans, where that area is Family Helping Families, and just ask for a meeting with them, with our council, to get their feedback or something? Because I feel for like urgency's sake, if nothing else, if they would agree just for, you know, to agree to take those referrals, or if we get any feedback, if they would agree. Just so we're sure that those needs are being met.
Yeah, I would say we don't need a formal motion, Lauren, we can, as the leadership team here, we can go ahead and reach out to the FHS director.
As soon as possible. I mean, for what I was saying, like if it's not a viable option, maybe offer it to the other centers. If they would agree, they could get extra funding or split that funding if they would take some of those referrals and, you know, provide the same service. I mean, it won't be the same, but outside of their region until the next fiscal year, and we're able to buy ourselves some time. You know, instead of just dispersing it to every one of these, it would be, the funding would be going towards the people in that community that would need it, and they would be getting the services, hopefully, ideally. So I don't know if that's an option as well, that we could reach out to the other Families Helping Families, either the next step, and see if that would be something that they would be interested in. Which ones would be, have the staff enough, or with extra funding, be able to hire part-time staff or something to be able to provide the referrals and things like that.
Sarah?
But would y'all let the board know what y'all next step would be once y'all?
Yes, I can send out something once we talk to the FHS director at Greater New Orleans, and we just discuss like our contractual deliverables and see if he's even interested. We can let the council know what his decision was.
But would y'all let us have not a say, would y'all let us have like input in whatever y'all decide to do, or y'all would just do?
I guess we're taking direction from you all. So we'll reach out to the Greater New Orleans Families Helping Families director to see if he's interested in taking that additional funding that was left on the table by NOLA. And if not, we can move forward to contacting the FHF centers who will be interested in taking the referrals for New Orleans.
Cause my concern, and my concern is I just don't want nobody to take it and say, oh, we just got it, okay, we're gonna take it, and not handle the load and just not do what they say. That's just my concern. They say, okay, yeah, we'll take it, but yet we don't get the thing that needs to be done for the people that's in the disability community.
Well, they'd have to keep the reports, like we get the other reports. So for that region, you would need the number of people they serve, you know.
Yeah, every quarter you
Yeah,
get,
we would have a
in our
report.
self-determination committee, you get updates about all of the FHF centers. So whoever would be taking over for FHF NOLA, that would also be reported what they're doing. Generally, our FHF contracts are not individualized per region. They are all doing the same thing. It's a level playing field. Now in this scenario, that contract may have to be tweaked a little bit because whoever would contract for that particular area, they're not going to get the same amount of funding that all the other centers are getting, because remember, all we have left is that probationary amount that you gave the center. So they would have to understand that there's a certain amount of funding this year, and if we would move forward in FY '26, then they would get more level funding with the other centers, depending on what the legislature gives us. Because right now, we don't have those additional dollars in the budget for fiscal year '26, so all the centers essentially are gonna be losing out on money next year if that's not added back in. But y'all will definitely get updates. Self-determination committee, if you don't sit on it and you're interested, that would be the committee that we talk about FHF every quarter.
So basically, they gonna work with the leftovers until we.
Yeah, I mean, whoever, whether it's the center that already exists in that area, whether there's an RFP or something to try to create a new center. The funding that they would get is gonna be what was going to be going to FHF NOLA this year, which I think was $80,000-ish, somewhere in there.
And nobody may even want it, but it was, I mean.
Well, that's what makes it
Yeah.
interesting, is that amount of funding will not support a center. You have to have other sources of revenue. So
at least we try.
there might be other entities out there if they are interested in contracting, but they would have to be under the Families Health and Families Monitor.
Anyone else?
We have, 3 hands raised. 2 council members. The first hand was Mr. Tony.
Mr. Tony, go ahead.
I've personally known the whole group and I've been in touch with them forever. Not just National Convention and my beautiful other family here. I can easily do that. I can connect with them. Craig and Heather, they have been a big part of the National Down Syndrome Congress. That's their hometown. I can easily do that for you. I can find out all the questions, anything, answers. I can be your voice. I can do that.
Thank you, Tony.
And Rosalind is the other hand.
Rosalind, go ahead.
She's trying to unmute.
I am trying to see how many centers are there who needs help in that kind of funds or anything, or needs some kind of help in that. And I would like to really, kind of speak out in that for them. In that, so like for me and the Roussel family and that, would like to really kind of step in on that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That's it.
Right. The report requires no action and will be placed on file. If there is no objection, the meeting will recess for 15 minutes. Hearing none, the meeting is at recess and it is now 10:04, 10:05. We will reconvene at 10:20. Thank you. All right, we'll be starting back shortly. It is now 10:25. The meeting will come to order. The next item of business is the report of the Education and Employment Committee. The chair recognizes Renata Washington for the report.
Thank you, Chair. The Education and Employment Committee met yesterday and does not have any recommendations to present to the council. We received a lot of great updates from the Louisiana Rehabilitative Services and Louisiana Department of Education. Melissa gave the update on LRS. LRS left 29 million on the table because of the lack of state funding match. They're continuing to provide the best resources with the money they have available. Melissa also gave an update on pre-employment transition services. There are currently 19 school districts that have third-party cooperative arrangements, with 2 school districts entering cooperative arrangements in August 2025. There is also a vocational rehab journey to reset staff with an in-depth training from start to finish of the vocab rehab journey. These trainings are happening statewide. We then received an LDOE update from Meredith Jordan. LDOE created many policy changes due to past legislation. Dyslexia core assessments. This is a policy to reimburse parents for additional dyslexia screenings funded through legislative created funds. New SEAC reports. All SEAC reports must now include IDEA finance information, academic performance data for students with disabilities, IDEA compliance issues. Procedural safeguard. This was updated with law and policy changes as well as recommendations from SEAC. Also LEAP Connect. According to 2023 data, 1.7% of students are taking the LEAP Connect, which is above the federal cap of 1%. Eligibility criteria in Bulletin 1530 was changed to remove adaptive behavior and make changes to the standard deviations. These changes come from researching what other states are doing to get at or under the 1%. The current high school students would be kept on the pathway that they are on, but it would be phased out for new upcoming students. CEP has endorsed all of these changes and will go to Bessie in December. We also received updates on contractual activities in goal 3 of the council's fiscal year 24 action plan. I encourage all to review the status update document that we receive quarterly for specific updates on each activity and any of the documents linked in our committee agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Renata. Are there any questions from council members on the report? Is there any public comment? Okay. The report requires no action and will be placed on file. The next item of business is the report of the Bylaws Committee. Hello. Vice Chair Jill Hayno to give the report.
I'm coming. Okay, so as y'all know that in July, I keep telling them to get 3 cookies.
It's all Kelly's fault. I told you about
No fault of mine. It's 3 cookies on the day. So as y'all know, in July, I gave y'all a report for the bylaws. So we met Monday, October 7th, nope, August 28th, to make recommendations for the full council to consider the changes made to our current policies and procedures, and then staff as well as our parliamentarian Nicole Learson made recommendations for changes to the policies and procedures. And the committee may change this as well for each section, and then staff made the changes to each section in the final draft of the recommendation. And our major changes include, edit to the council member responsibilities on section 6. We added 3 bullet points on the board of ethics timeline, which includes due dates for our financial disclosures and our ethics training, and then apparently a Senate questionnaire to send it forward in boards and commission office, and have filed tax returns for the past 5 years. Failure to return the notarized and witness questionnaire will resolve in tax or not resolve with failure to return the notarized and witness questionnaire or not. Sorry, y'all. Or not resolving tax issues were resulting the night of Senate confirmation, okay? And then we added a section 5 for selection process for the new board executive director. We just elaborated in with the specific steps. And then the thing for the evaluation process for the executive, do we have a rule for self-advocates that can't talk this much? And Julie finish? Or a staff member?
Sure, so like it's Stephanie, can you take over?
Okay. Sorry, no.
That's okay, Jewel. I'll make it shorter than, I'll try to trim it down.
Sorry.
That's okay. Fine.
That's why Jill is the chairman of the board.
Okay, so I think we're on
The evaluation.
the evaluation, okay. So the bylaws committee revamped section 6, the evaluation process for the executive director. All those updates and changes are included in the changes that were sent and included in the council packet. They added the calendar. The calendar will be maintained on the website and shared at quarterly council meetings to section 8 calendar. And it removes all months and dates with the committee. And the committee is recommending a new time frame to meet for quarterly council meetings, which was sent and included in your council packet. So just to show y'all, it looks like this. It says tentative schedule of quarterly council meeting. This is kind of what was agreed upon, just showing y'all. In section 10, council funding, there were a few changes. We condensed paragraph 1 to bring more clarity. We added in writing the number 1 of expenditures approvals, and we will now have a form that the executive director will utilize for budgetary line adjustments more than $5,000. We increased the executive director's authority to obligate funds on non-operating expenditures from $500 to $1,000 in number 2 due to inflation. Therefore, the bylaws committee has one recommendation for the council to consider. Do I read the recommendation? Okay. Just wanted to ask.
The bot says breaks over. So, okay, therefore the committee has one recommendation for y'all to consider. We recommend that changes the bylaws committee recommends approval of the recommended changes to the council's and proceed to the council's policy and procedures manual.
Thank you, Jill. Because this motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Are there any discussion from council members? Lauren?
We got some more clarity, well, our committee, which isn't the bylaws, but just something I wanted to show at the council. If y'all want to look at your tentative schedule, when bylaws committee was initially discussing changing the dates, we were trying to decide that if it would give us more information and give us more accurate reports. We discussed and asked a bunch of the different agencies, and they said that it wouldn't give us any more time. We talked to staff, which said it wouldn't give us any more time. So for efforts of, we may just want to keep it the same. That was my only.
Brenton?
Just for clarity, that was in reference to the Act 378 reports. So at least internally, as far as our contractual things that the council's doing, I would think if you were deciding to have your meetings later, that you would get a lot more accurate information from our contractors. We get that on the 10th. And so we should be able to have that updated information for you in time for a meeting if it was later. Just that may not work for the Act 378 committee specifically.
Okay.
That data
Thank you for that.
may not be up to date.
Yeah.
But your data as far as council initiatives should be much more accurate.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember, despite having the bylaws we approved in January, or rather in July. But so they at least put in the bylaws, for lack of a better term, procedures for advocacy, like missing multiple meetings. Like, when does that go into effect? Because I know that council members don't come to meetings. And I was just curious as to when that went into effect.
Christy, can I answer?
Yes, go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, so Jill, you all voted on the bylaws at the July meeting. It passed, so those bylaws are on the website. They are effective as of July 18th.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions?
We have one hand raised, Ms. Rosalind.
Rosalind?
Yeah, it's about the, with next year's meetings and that. Are they still gonna resume in January through October for both years like that? In like 2025 and 2026 as well, like this? So it's gonna be, are they gonna be the same, or are they gonna be different in that kind of perspective? For what I'm understanding and what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I can answer. Rosalind, so these are the proposed dates that the bylaws committee came up with when they met on August 28th. The council has to take a vote. So you guys can vote to accept these tentative dates that they have recommended, or you can keep the dates the same, or you all can make other recommendations as far as dates go for our quarterly council meetings. So until you guys take a vote, I won't have the answer, but the bylaws committee is recommending the dates that you see on the screen.
Right, that's what I'm trying to follow with you and that up on it. So it's because for January the 9th and the 30th, there is nothing there. So that's going to stay blank for both years?
That's just because you guys don't have anything like specific that has to be on your agenda for January, which is why we thought the council retreat would be a great time to have that. So there's nothing specific for the January meeting that you guys have to decide on as far as like federal requirements or things that we have in-house, like the nominating committee. But we can always plan things for January to have on that agenda, but that's just the quarterly meeting dates.
Oh, I was just, trying to follow along with you up on that where, until I get my packet, and and all, so.
You have appointment. Somebody.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Eric.
And due dates?
Suggested, I think, right, Ebony?
Yeah, these are the suggested dates from the bylaws committee.
Okay. So the question we have is on accepting the proposed policies and procedures from the bylaws committee. We will have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to accept these policies and proposed policies.
Tony, just raise his hand.
Yes, go ahead, Tony. You have to unmute.
That is stupendous for one, and whoever the groups are making it totally real and making it acceptable, because not knowing what you all do is fantastic. Just whatever y'all do is really awesome. But I'm quite sure we talked about the council retreat. Let me know ahead of time so I can plan that on my side with my family
Yes.
when that comes.
Okay, thank you,
Close.
Tony.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else with question?
That's it.
All right. So the question is on accepting from the bylaws committee to adopt the proposed policies and procedures. We will have a roll call vote. If you're in favor of the motion to accept these new policies and procedures, when your name is called, say yes. If you are opposed, say no. And if you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Mr. Dooley?
Yes.
Mr. Dooley, yes. Dr. Barabecchio?
Yes.
Dr. Barabecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Hano?
Me? Yes.
Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel?
She has a short screen. Perfect. Mic and camera are off.
Yes.
Rosalind, you have to show your screen in order to be counted towards the vote.
Oh. It's not allowing me to.
There you
Yes.
go. All right, Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Quinn? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piontek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor?
Oh.
Mr. Taylor, no. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
No.
Ms. Webb, no. Dr. Wilson? And Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. I have 17 yays and 2 nays.
All right, so the yeses have it and the motion is adopted. Right?
Okay, from the bylaws committee, I do have one more motion. So I move that the executive director be authorized to correct article in section designations, punctuations, cross-reference this, and to make other technical and conforming changes is may be necessary to reflect the intent of the council.
Okay. Is there a second? So all she's asking is that we allow Ebony to correct punctuation, articles, to that nature, grammar.
I second.
Vivian, thank you. It is moved and seconded. Are there any discussion from committee members?
Oh,
Any public
I was gonna
comment?
second it. I was gonna second it, but that's okay.
So.
I was gonna do the same thing.
Okay, thank y'all. The question is on, we allowing the executive director to. Is there any objection to this? All right. There are no objections. I mean, moving on to the next membership committee, GO.
Hi, y'all. Okay. So the membership committee met on the day on October 11th to choose applicants to recommend to the full council for council membership. We currently do not have, we currently have 6 open seats, which include 4 seats that were not Senate. This is incorrect.
Or seats that weren't Senate confirmed?
No, but that's it. The vacancy that opened
After Nicole, due to Nicole Banks' resignation.
Oh, I read it wrong. The vacancy opened due to Nicole Banks resigning and the institutional facility seat. The seat has to be filled by someone who is currently living in the institution or has in the past, or by a parent of someone that lives in the institutional facility. The committee reviewed the council's demographics compared to the state of Louisiana and demographics in discussed areas where improvement can be made in council membership in regards to demographics. And based on the information presented, the council, as always, needs more guys, more those. The committee considered that some advocates and 9 parents applicants for the 5 seats available for self-advocate and parent seat. And again, as a reminder, oh, never mind. The committee only had 1 applicant to consider in the institutional facility seat, and she's a parent. Okay, so as per our governor, the current governor's office, boards and commissions is requested renomination per available seat. However, the committee has decided it was best to submit the names of all the applicants that rated highly in his great interview, and then allowed the governor's office to make the final decisions. It's also important that you note that you of the applicant that the committee is recommending that will meet the location requirements for central and northeast regions. Additionally, there are several male applicants. Sorry, no. There are several male applicants. The committee is recommending, which brings us closer to the state demographics. 1 parent was mistakenly not contacted by the committee, and the committee agreed to interview him after meeting, especially since the applicant seemed very interested in the not be penalized due to the mistake of the committee. Most applicants sent in a short bio that was included in your packet to consider, including the parent applicant that was interviewed after the meeting, and there were 2 parent applicants that do not have bios. Therefore, the committee has 3 recommendations to present to the council to consider. It says Ebony will put it really is. The membership. I can't do this. Yes, you can. The committee recommended
Karen, yes.
Karen do to fill the facility seat on the council. Okay, and then you're all.
Where is she doing that?
Okay.
You want me to do one day?
We have to vote.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Can we ask questions before the vote?
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
need it. Yeah.
There'll be a time. Thank you, Jill. Because this motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Is there any discussion from council members? Sheree?
Oh, has anybody like interviewed these people?
Yes,
Yes.
Like through,
the whole committee is interviewed, like you were interviewed.
okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Shavian?
Do we have more details on her? Like,
I interviewed her.
how old is her son?
I have the bio. Lauren interviewed us, so I'll let Lauren speak to you about it.
I spoke with her at length and she's a really, really great candidate. Her son is actually in the institution. He is of age now. He is doing great before Katrina. Finally getting the services he needs. She's of the Asian community. She spoke about, you know, cultural barriers that she felt with her own family and in the community of coming to grips with coming forward and having a child with a disability, of really wanting to advocate. She's actually struggling with having him in the institution, getting the services he needs. You know, I'm really glad that she's in, she would be an asset. I mean, let alone an institutional seat, which we, you know, it's hard to find just as a parent with a child with a disability. She came from China, and so she also had to overcome the speech barrier. I think that could speak to some of the things that we're gonna start facing more and more. You know, not Asian maybe, but with the Hispanic community, and things like that. Does that answer your question? Do you have anything more specific?
What is her attitude towards her son? Because in her biographical sketch, it seems like she sees him as more of a burden or a mistake. And when he faced some struggles because he's autistic and things happened, he was put in Pinecrest, and we don't want to advocate to improve institutions. We want to improve,
she wants her child
towards outside of institutions.
Ebony?
Yes, before we start to go into anything like that, if you guys want to ask those types of questions, I would recommend that the council go into executive session. I don't think this is appropriate to have in an open meeting. And she is also on, and so I think if you guys want to have a discussion about this, we need to go into executive session.
And I'd just like to make a comment. Anybody is welcome to join the membership committee. So if this was a concern to some of these council members, I'm just, you know, no blame or anything, but just maybe make the effort if it's important to you to make sure that you're available to participate next time, because we needed that.
I was not in the country. I was in Paris.
And it was not.
We're gonna go ahead and go into executive session. Need a motion to go into executive session?
I move we go into executive session.
We don't. I wasn't kidding, sorry.
Need a second.
Oh, I'll second.
All right, Jill. Are there any objections?
I mean, I object. I mean, I feel like we
For executive session to be entered into, there has to be the statute, it's Louisiana statute that kind of comes into play here to dictate the reasons thereof, the procedure, so I'm not sure if that's been followed. Just FYI.
What procedures?
There's certain things that requires you to go into an executive session. And if it doesn't meet that criteria, you cannot go into an executive session. And I don't think that this meets that, is what Tamara said.
I just don't want this body to be fined or subjected to legislative auditors. It's not worth the trouble.
So we got legal advice from, and this was a while back, I think during COVID, the council requested legal advice from LDH Legal about when the council should go into executive session about when they're going to discuss applicants. And if you're going to discuss an applicant's disability or their child's disability, that is a warrant for you to go into executive session.
Okay, so I know this from experience.
No, I
has to be placed on the agenda.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And she has to be notified.
There has to be due process supported. I'm just, so I just want, I guess we can take a break. We can maybe look at the statute together or decide whether or not this council wants to move forward. And she's shaking her head. She knows that we've been through this path before through other.
We have the parliamentarian here. Can you give any advice, Nicole?
I'm not an attorney, so I won't speak to, the legal issue. I do know that if the discussion is germane simply to the motion to approve, then the discussion should remain there and germane to that and not go into the merits of this individual's situation, their circumstances, and or their disability. So your comments should remain germane to just simply the process that was used, the information that was gathered, and whether or not it's enough information for you all to vote your conscience. And then if there are other matters that need to follow that statute that need to be on the agenda, then you can postpone the approval of this individual until the next time that this can come up on the agenda in the appropriate manner to go into executive session.
Yes.
I withdraw my motion.
And I put that in front of the council.
No.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So do we move to adopt this person in this facility seat?
Well,
What we
is made.
is made.
Hands raised. Yeah, we have 2 hands raised, three hands. We have Mr. Tony, Ms. Rosalind, and Ms. Brenda Kosek. No, Mr. Tony was first.
Tony, go ahead, Tony.
Yes, we've dealt with this, the same type of background checking and whatnot. And we've had the same description. And I'm the type that does not want to go through that, but through the youth-led programs through the Catholic Church, we do the same system as we do here. So just tell yourselves inside of your heart that everything goes well with God, with His plan, because we may not know everything. We totally don't. But I do know whatever the conscience is in that person's heart, that's what really counts.
Thank you, Tony.
And Ms. Rosalind was next.
Ms. Rosalind?
Yeah, this is, I do agree with Tony because sometimes you have to follow your heart and that. So is there a leader into what's right there? What you saying into this situation, what's on the board and that? And I, want to know it. I'm hoping that her heart's in the right place in her mind as well, into knowing that, it's there. And I want to really welcome her into it as well.
Thank you. Who's next?
Ms. Brenda Cossack.
Ms. Brenda?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I was at the membership committee meeting. Am I still allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
So I'm understanding that this is an institutional facility seat, and we're replacing is it termed self-advocate or person with disability with a parent?
This is a institutional facility seat. And she is a parent. Lauren, can you go ahead and help her some of her demographics?
There was no other applicant for that position either.
Okay, Lauren, want to speak?
Yeah, she was, the only.
Hello?
Hi?
Can you hear us?
Okay, she was the only applicant for that position.
Her child is in a facility, so that's not as
And her
close.
child is
Yeah.
in a facility.
Yes. Did you hear us, Ms. Brenda?
Yes, but my question was, are we replacing a self-advocate or person with a disability with a
It might
parent?
have been a self-advocate, but they can't run any.
Yeah. Ebony.
So her seat expired in 2022. The current person that holds that seat, and this Rosalind Heimel, for that particular seat, Ms. Brenda, according to the DD Act, it can either be a person with a disability who has lived in an institution or who currently lives in one, or a parent of an individual who has lived in an institution or currently lives in one. So she is eligible to fill that seat.
Thank you for that clarification. So it has taken us about 2 years to find another applicant that qualified?
Yes, ma'am.
Vivian?
So I didn't mean to sound like I was attacking her or anything. I was just trying to figure out her intentions because we do need to be careful and keep that in mind. But after learning that her intentions are good and pure, I think she's an excellent candidate.
Any other questions or comments?
Tony has his hand raised again.
Tony?
Only she. If that's okay to ask.
I don't have that information.
You didn't address that in the interview.
Not one of the questions that we asked.
No.
Yeah.
It's all right. I was just wondering.
Okay. All right. So the question is, from the membership committee, that we recommend Karen Zoom to fill the institutional facility seat on the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. We will have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to accept Ms. Karen Zhu to fill the institutional facility seat on the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council, say yes. If you are opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Ms. Aduli?
Yes.
Ms. Aduli, yes. Dr. Baravecchio?
Abstain.
Dr. Baravecchio abstains. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane? Okay. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hayden?
Yes.
Ms. Hayden, yes. Ms. Hano?
Yes.
Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel?
It's coming out. Get unmute, Rosalind.
Was that me? No.
No, not yet. Not yet, Ms.
Okay.
Stewart. Rosalind, can you unmute your phone? Okay, I'll come back to Rosalind if she's in here. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piontek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson? Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 16 yeas and 1 abstention.
Okay, the yeses have it and the motion is adopted.
Okay, so now we are going to, for self-advocates, the membership committee recommends Aiden Bushany, I got Jude, Nicole Flores, Boykin, and for Frank Gagliuso. To fill the individuals with disabilities on the DD Council with Gwendolyn Hiller as an alternative.
Thank you, Jill. Because this motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Are there any discussions from council members? So the question is that we accept the recommendations of Aiden. Oh,
Ms. Brenda
sorry.
just raised her hand.
Who? I'm sorry.
Ms. Brenda?
Ms. Brenda?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, okay. Aiden, Jude, Frank. That would bring the self-advocates count to 3 more self-advocates. Thank you.
Anyone else for Keisha? That's it. So the question is on accepting the recommendations from the membership committee for Aiden Blunsky, Jude Boynton, and Frank. I'm sorry. You counsel? Macaluso. Macaluso. Right. To fill the individuals with developmental disability seats on the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council with the alternate of Gwendolyn Hiller. Right. We will have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to accept these people for their seats, when your name is called, say yes. If you're opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Ms. Aduli?
Yes.
Ms. Aduli, yes. Dr. Barabecchio?
Yes.
Dr. Barabecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Hano?
Yes.
Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piontek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson and Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 19 yeas.
Sorry?
0. 19 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, the yeses have it and the motion is adopted.
Okay, so then lastly, we recommend 3 parents, Roland did fill seats on the council, Latoya did the same. Brooke, what's that first name, Martin, Meda, and Danielle Corrin, who filled the parent seat in Elena Chuduri is, oh my God, saturated and alternative.
You'll make it now, forget. I would like to propose an amendment. Yes. As a additional alternate, to have Robert, as another alternate.
I need a second to add it to the list.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Right. Okay.
I was gonna second it.
All right, thank you, Tony. Because this motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Are there any discussion from council members? Right, okay. So the change, because we're adding an amendment, was to add Robert C. Smith Jr. We were just adding him as an alternate, right? We stated in our reports that we had to interview him at a later date because he thought our number was spam, because I'm not from Baton Rouge. So, and I understand that. So we had to email him and let him know that it wasn't spam. So we did contact him and get his information to interview him. And we didn't want to penalize him because, he wasn't interviewed. So due to that. So we did want to add him as an alternate.
You said some of them we don't have a bio.
Two, right, Kim? Ebony.
Yes, for Ms. Latoya Citizen and Ms. Danielle, I think, Foray. We didn't get bios for them, unfortunately.
You have the application.
And I mean, the membership committee is here. If you guys have questions about their interviews, they can answer those questions, the members that interviewed those two parents.
All right, so we have a second on adding Mr. Robert Smith as an alternate. Is there any discussion?
So now we have two alternates.
Yeah, yes.
Is that protocol? Like, I've never had more than one alternate.
I think it's appropriate now, based on the information we received from governor's office, that they want a slate of people.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yes, Tamar.
Just for clarification, I think it's your policy to have alternates because during the due course of getting people appointed, sometimes they change their minds, things come up. And I know that very well this board wants to become compliant with the federal regulations. So having some alternates for contingent members in place, just in case something does happen like that, this council be prepared.
That's good. I'd just like to speak to Meredith, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, staff, please correct me. One of the people that we had a bio for, that we didn't have a bio for, her eligibility was in question of if she was receiving services?
No, that was one of the self-advocate applicants, not the parent applicants.
Okay.
Any other questions or questions?
We have one hand raised, Ms. Brenda Costello.
Ms. Brenda?
Ms. Brenda?
Oh, hello. I asked it in the Q&A. Can somebody read it? I can't click back.
He asked if the 3 self-advocates would increase self-advocates to how many if approved by the governor?
So currently with Rosalind still in that seat, we have 6 self-advocates. And she's asking, what's the question, Hannah?
If these 3 self-advocates would increase the number of self-advocates if approved by the governor, how many self-advocates would we have, I guess?
So yeah, it would go up to, no, it would go up to 9.
Rosalind is coming on, right?
But so we would have had 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be 6.
It would be 9.
9.
If he were to accept all 3 of the nomination or the self-advocate nominations, it would be 9.
9 total? Okay, thank you. Right. Any other comments?
But some advocates are rolling up.
I think Tony might be raising his hand. Okay. Who has their hand up?
I believe it was Tony.
Tony, do you have a question?
Well, it's truly an incredible moment for us because I'm pretty sure when I was on this some years ago, we had the same situation. We just of the need of the protection and the enrichment of acceptance is truly off of the wall, that we would do anything to do this. And that's just how I feel of this whole situation.
Thank you.
So I just think it's truly an incredible group of us that have made tons of changes throughout the years, and this is the epitome of what we all stand for.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
So the question is on whether we accepting the alternate, Robert Smith, as adding him to our alternate list. All right. So we will have a roll call vote. Ebony, if you are in favor of the motion, I'm sorry.
Part of the motion is covered, and who's Latoya? I have no information on her.
She was one of the parent advocates that didn't get her her bio submitted, neither did Danielle Corey.
Can we have some information on that?
I can speak.
Yes, you have that's to the chair.
You want me to answer Vivian or you want to?
Yeah.
We have to finish the motion. Okay, so if you are in favor of the motion to add the alternate, Robbie Smith, say yes. If you are opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Ms. Adu?
Yes.
Ms. Adu, yes. Dr. Barabecchio? Dr. Barabecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Hano? Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piantek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
How am I supposed to vote on something if I don't have the information?
We're just voting on the
On the
amendment to add Robert.
But that's not what's on there.
That's after we vote on the amendment.
So this wasn't the original motion. This is like the amended motion, just to add Robert. So you're saying, yes, you want to add him, or no, you don't want to add him?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson and Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 18 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions.
The yeses have it and the motion is adopted.
Okay, is that better, Vivian? That's the amended motion. And now we're gonna go to the full motion
Yes.
and you can ask the other question.
Yeah, this is gonna be the motion.
The second.
Can we have any motion we
I'll
vote
second
on?
it.
There?
Yeah, I mean, it's up there.
Okay, so now we just added the amendment. Now we're voting on the amended motion.
So,
Okay.
questions.
I'll second it.
Okay. Are there any discussion from council members about the amended motion? Vivian?
I already asked it.
I know, but we just have to go through the process.
Okay, do y'all want to answer the previously asked question?
About Angela?
I can speak.
Yes.
Okay. Brooke and I interviewed Miss Citizen. She met the criteria for the parent and she had a couple kids that had a disability. Plus she was in a region that we never had really any real input on the committee. So she met all those qualifications first or requirements. So with her being voiced in the community, she was custody dealing with McCann. I think she works with Constance. You know, she's been with that McCann leader before. She does a lot of outreach. And so we felt like she would be an access to our council. And plus she met that region that we haven't had any input or representation from. So that was why.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Any other comments?
No.
Right. So the question is on the recommendations from the membership committee for Latoya Citizen, Lamartin Meta, Danielle Correa to fill the parent and immediate relative seats on the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council with the alternates of Elena Sashery and Robert Smith. And it was made, motion made by Lauren Womack and seconded by Mr. Mike Billings. All right. This will be a roll call vote if you're in favor of the motion. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I'm a parent for Region 4. My name's Rebecca. I'm also the Partners in Policy Making Committee. And I just noticed in Dr. Mehta's bio, there's no mention of being a parent or a family member. So I just wanted to make sure that criteria was met there.
Yeah.
He is a parent.
He's a parent, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ebony.
Thank you.
So we will have a roll call vote. If you're in favor of the motion to accept these people to these seats, say yes. If you are opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Ms. Adini?
Yes.
Ms. Adini, yes. Dr. Berbecchio? Yes. Dr. Berbecchio, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, yes. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Ennis, yes. Ms. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Hagan, yes. Ms. Kano? Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Heimel?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piontek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
You gotta unmute.
Brooke, can you hear us?
Brooke?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart, yes.
Uh,
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson? And Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 18 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. The yeses have it and the motion is adopted. Thanks, everyone. So the next item up for business is the report of the Legislative Advocacy Committee. The chair recognizes Lauren Womack for the report.
The newly formed Legislative Advocacy Ad Hoc Committee met on September 27th to review community input received regarding the council's 2025 legislative advocacy agenda. There were only 6 individuals that volunteered to be on this committee. So I want to thank all of them for participating. I also want to thank our council agency representatives who participated in the meeting so we could see feedback and answers to our questions. Lastly, I'd also like to thank the public members who participated and shared their thoughts. The purpose of this committee was to review all community input received at the meetings held by the LCAN leaders throughout the state and develop a recommendation for the advocacy agenda. It would be considered by the full council. As many of you may recall, the council sets its advocacy agenda in October. We typically receive all the input and recommendations during the executive committee meeting and full council meetings. But we usually run out of time to get questions answered about the topics and allow for robust member and public input. This led to subsequent changes in the agenda at later meetings and delayed our advocacy efforts. This committee was formed to try to address those issues by allowing the members to review all input, review the recommendations from LCAN leaders and FHS directors, listen to public comment, seek guidance from our partner agencies, and in efforts to provide another opportunity for the public and council to participate. This is all in an effort to help streamline the council's decision and development of its agenda. We spent quite a few hours discussing all of these issues, soliciting great feedback and input from the public and our our agency partners, and used all that information to develop our recommendation. If you have any questions or clarifications, I'll be happy to do my best to answer or staff. The motion is on the behalf of the legislative committee, I move to adopt the legislative ad hoc committee the full council for inclusion in its 2025 legislative advocacy agenda, funding for families helping families, regional resource centers, and addressing the impending fiscal cliff and potential cuts to the Louisiana Department of Health. And we offer this motion to you for consideration.
Thank you, Lauren. Because this motion is coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Are there any discussions from council members? Any questions for Keisha from the public?
No, hands raised.
Okay. So the question is on behalf of the legislative committee to recommend the issues that to be considered by the full council for inclusion in its 2025 legislative advocacy agenda is the funding for families helping families regional resource centers and to address the impending fiscal cliff and potential cuts in the Louisiana Department of Health. We will have a roll call vote. If you are in favor of the motion to address these concerns, when your name is called, say yes. If you are opposed, say no. If you abstain, say abstain. Ebony?
Ms. Dooley?
Yes.
Mr. Dooley, yes. Dr. Baravecchio?
Abstain.
Dr. Baravecchio abstains. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Bennett?
Same.
Mr. Bennett abstains. Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Mr. Billings, yes. Ms. Crane?
Abstain.
Ms. Crane abstains. Mr. Ennis?
Abstain.
Mr. Ennis abstains. Ms. Hagan?
Abstain.
Ms. Hagan abstains. Ms. Kano? Ms. Heimel?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, you called for me?
Yes, Rosalind, would you like to approve the legislative advocacy agenda for 2025 for those two items?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Abstain.
Ms. Jordan abstains. Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Piontek?
Yes.
Mr. Piontek, yes. Mr. Rocca?
Yes.
Mr. Rocca, yes. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart, yes. Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor abstains. Ms. Washington?
Yes.
Ms. Washington, yes. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yes. Dr. Wilson? And Ms. Womack?
Yes.
Ms. Womack, yes. 11 yeas and 7 abstentions.
So the yeses have it and the motion is adopted. Thank you. The next item of business is our standing council member reports. Please refer to the reports in your packet. Our first report is from the Disability Rights of Louisiana, the purple one. The chair recognizes Tori Roca for the report.
Thank you. Let's see, I won't read the whole thing, but just some highlights, program updates. Our client assistance program, which helps people with disabilities who are receiving or applying for services from LRS and American Indian Rehabilitation Services. We are currently assisting 34 people in that program. Our community living ombudsman program. In that program, we have advocates, well known as ombudsmen, advocating for people with developmental disabilities who live in state licensed privately run group homes across the state. And in the fiscal year, and I apologize for the dates on this, this is based on our last fiscal year, our most recent fiscal year closeout. So we served 4,306 people with developmental disabilities living in group homes. There were 1,637 visits from our ombudsman, 9,455 residential contacts, 1,495 documented complaints, including 96 allegations of abuse, 792 allegations of neglect, 344 rights violations, 127 quality of life concerns raised, and as a result of the 1,495 complaints, Health Standards investigated and found 162 complaints to be valid. 12 responsible staff were fired. Inappropriate treatment or medication was terminated in 5 instances. 28 clients received appropriate medical or psychological treatment and or related services. 65 staff shortages were corrected. 122 clients received appropriate additional care services. Group homes made 158 changes to enhance safety. 23 clients received appropriate written treatment plans. 60 staff were educated regarding resident rights. 12 clients gained access to their financial records and or personal funds. And 5 clients were provided service in a less restrictive environment. And six clients gained employment. And that was for the fiscal year for that program. In our supported independent living advocacy program, we serve individuals with developmental disabilities who are receiving OCDD labor services and supports. We offer free services to people residing in supported living environments and basically the Louisiana Human Services districts that are around Baton Rouge and New Orleans. That's just we have funding for. And in the fiscal year, which ended on June 30th, we served 53 individuals in the Baton Rouge and New Orleans areas. We help them improve their living environments, obtain necessary health care, develop self-advocacy skills, and other things. In our rep payee program, we strengthen protections for social security beneficiaries. We provide oversight to representative payees regarding their services to beneficiaries. These are basically people who are managing social security benefits for other people. We give them advice and provide oversight so people aren't having their funds misused. We had a target number of 50 cases for our current grant year, and it's 59, I believe. So we exceeded the number of cases we were supposed to handle, and that was rare for CNAs. Some other legal work that we did, but I think that I've described a lot of that in the previous meeting. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.
You were on our legislative advocacy committee, and we were discussing one of the things we were really wanting to advocate for, but didn't have enough information to recommend it, was like the institutional. There was some audit that said the institutions were not being fined enough or something. Like, you recall that at all?
I recall that from the meeting, although not in detail.
Okay. I was just wondering, do you think, like, are you in touch with like the ombudsman program where they could maybe give us some more statistics or something, or maybe help us ways that we could advocate?
And now that you've jogged my memory, I recall the issue was about wanting stronger fines or harsher penalties for people who are not complying with.
And then we were like, well, we don't even know what it is to.
What I can do is I can ask the director of the community advocacy, who manages the programs, and see if she has insight into this and get back to you on that. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to give you any intelligent answer, but I can see what our director of that part of our organization knows about this and what her thoughts are on it. And she has context that actually be able to have insight into this.
And I mean, like personally, I mean, I can't speak for the other council members, but this is an issue I don't know hardly anything about. And I think that this is really, really important because as a self-advocate who is an adult that's aging too, like if something happens and I can't keep staff, you know, I could wind up in a group home or something like that. You know, and these numbers are, no one would say these are, you know, remotely where they need to be. So if we can help advocate for a change, especially in our 5-year plan of things that we can be doing as for our most vulnerable OCDD population, I mean, you know, as a council member, I would like to know.
Sounds good. I will ask our director of that part of our organization what
If they wanted to give a presentation or give you something that you could bring to us.
and she might not have the information herself, but if she doesn't, I will. Well, and this is, I mean, was this sort of subjective about what how the fine is high enough or whatever, so you need to.
But just more about what her office does or can do.
Okay. I will see if she's the right one to do that, and if not, I'll.
Or even ways that we can refer family members. Or inform our helping families about should their, you know, their loved ones wind up in a supported living environment.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Julie?
So just wanted to also do a point of clarification. During that conversation, there was discussion in the report that the Louisiana Department of Health was not in favor of higher fines and sanctions. And so I did follow up with our health standards section. So just wanted to clarify, when we do have an audit finding, there are recommendations that are given that we then, when we say agree or disagree, first off, it's in terms of looking at the data they used and whatnot. And then second off, it is around, can we then implement that? And when I followed up with health standards, they asked me to make sure it was clear that the Department of Health was not saying that they were against higher fines and sanctions, but we do have legislation and statutes that there's a max amount that can be paid So the comment was only that the fines and sanctions can only be up to a certain amount. And so we would need legislative action to change that in order to do higher fines and sanctions. So just wanted to get that clarification on the record as well. It wasn't that LDH was saying that they were against higher fines and sanctions, just they're not able to do it within the authorities that we have right now. So
And that's, I mean, obviously that's not gonna solve the problem. I mean, we wanna catch it on the front end if we can, so.
Any public comment?
Yes, we have a hand raised, Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
Kathy?
Thank you. And to kind of piggyback on what Julie just said and what the DD Council, has some interested in terms of, or at least some people express interested in increasing the fines. This is where you would do your research to see exactly what the law says, what the maximum fines can be for each kind of offense, and then somehow review and decide whether or not that maximum amount should be increased and propose the law be changed to reflect those increases. And that's where the advocacy would come in, is to change the law.
Thank you. Is that it, Rakisha?
That's it.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you.
Hearing no other public comments, the report requires no action and will be placed on file. The next item for business is the report of the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs. The chair recognizes Jamar Ennis for his report.
Good morning, everyone. Jamar Ennis on behalf of the Governor's Office. So, in similar fashion, I don't want to read directly from the report. I'm just gonna kind of give some points, add a few things. One of the most important things that we've done, I guess, over the past month, it seemed like a month ago, whenever Hurricane Francine decided to visit our state, we did a lot of activity in terms of activating MDAT, getting special releases for our newsletter to get timely information out to the public. Considering what's happening, what could happen at any time, our advisory council, the Governor's Advisory Council of Disability Affairs, decided to make emergency preparedness a standing committee so that every quarter emergency preparedness is being actively discussed. So the general consensus is staying ready so we don't have to get ready if bad things happen. So with this and the other committees within GACTA, there will be some form of solicitation of interested parties who would like to join the committees within GACTA. Right now we have 8 members of GACTA. Anyone kind of with experience, especially a board of this size, knows that a membership of that size is going to need more resources to be successful. There's any ad hoc committees or any standing committees to get things done. So that being said, there will be ongoing efforts to keep emergency preparedness, no matter what the emergency is, kind of in the forefront, just to keep things going. So we're monitoring kind of what's happening, what happened to Florida, what's happened to other states. So that's the kind of thing here. So I do want to talk about some of the programs that we want to have next year. We're in the midst of kind of seeing where we're going to host these events. One is the Mayor's Initiative, centered around this premise. So we want to build around the current committees, commissions, and councils centered around local disability issues. Bringing those committees to the table and also invite other mayors and local entities statewide to learn, get empowered, get enabled on how to build system structure and something of their own to the extent that they can. So we intend to invite MIB, we intend to invite an emergency preparedness element to enable local entities how to build and sustain a local parish level if they don't have it already, which we know that some entities, some parishes don't have them. Some communities don't have them. Don't know the first thing about emergency preparedness. So we want to bring those inputs to make local entities successful, empowered to address certain things on a local level. So we want to bring in mayors, ombudsmen, pretty much anybody who wants to learn or has something to share to this space. So we want to have it ideally, and we may have it around when sessions going on. But we want to, whether it's a small event, whether it's large, we want to have something of this caliber. And that's kind of similar to what this group mentioned with the national coalition. It's something on a more of a state local level aimed targeting local entities. From my experience, most of the action happens on a very, very local level. So we want to do what we can to at least set the table for that. Also, we're going to have a formal application for a parking task force council initiative that's going to happen in 2025. For some reason, October just seems to be a very busy month for us. So we're still working on getting the process of how we want to accept and receive applications out so we can get access to all of the interested parties there. Our GODA, the programs that we had, everyone knew about our conference. This year we had six presentations. There is an active survey monkey requesting information for feedback because we want to see how we can build and meet demands next year of what the interested topics are. So if there's anybody who wants to provide some suggestions on what we can do better, our intention is to have a virtual and a hybrid component of in-person. So we're looking to expand to multiple days, just not one. So if there's anybody who just wants to present or have some good suggestions, we're looking to them. Another thing I want to mention is that I will be reaching out to most, if not all, of the organizations, some sitting at this table, to identify certain issues that you may care about, the organization cares about, ahead of next year's session, regular session, that is. Because it's my belief that understanding the issues early, we could work towards meaningful solutions on the back end. I can explain to the administration, to my bosses, why something works, why something doesn't work. I just need you to tell me kind of what the issues are, what you recommend, so on and so forth. So I'll be reaching out to a lot of y'all formally to sit down, get a better understanding some of the issues that you may face, what it is that you want, what the concerns are. So we do know that a special session is likely imminent next month. From what I understand, it's probably going to be around the 4th or 5th regarding the various tax credits that are up for discussion. So I don't have information more specifically, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there. So I just don't have enough information to, I guess, to form an opinion of what the official stance is for the governor. So, but when, in the due course, when the information that does become available, I'll gladly share it. So we're gonna probably, I don't know how invested or how much I will be participating in the legislative session. I guess I'll just be available. If they have any questions or, to the extent that they need me, one of the peers, in the next couple of weeks, once we find out more about the package, and once that becomes public, I'll be able to be with anybody who wants to discuss or has some issues, concerns that I need to convey to the administration. Everyone knows about the GODA awards. What the GODA awards are. So this is a good time of the year. This is the feel good stuff about our program. We love putting this program on. It's the 2024 Governor's Outstanding Leadership and Disability Awards. So it's a typical slate of awards. We can't wait to have it. It's going to be December 3rd at the Old State Capitol this year. The nominations are due on November 1st. So if there's anyone who's interested in applying or nominating other people, please do so as soon as possible.
I'm open for people nominating. I will put you down.
Yeah, but we accept self-nominating applications. So I will transmit the paperwork to you.
No.
I'll fill it out for you.
No.
All right, wait, but you got a willing nominator.
No.
Well, okay, so we also, in another part of the GOLD Award is our inclusive art contest. So we graciously received this from the DD Council back in 2009. Very excited to carry this program on and upward and onward. This year's thing is Radiate Your Color. It's one of those esoteric, open-ended, you don't know what you're going to get till you get it kind of themes. So we've already received some nominations, some submissions. So we look to get more. All people of all ages can submit artwork. We have various categories. We just want to get as many as we can to celebrate the achievements of and to bolster the whole movement of advocacy and awareness through art. So it's one of the best times of year for us. We need everybody's participation to get the word out for anybody who's interested. Outreach. So if there's anything that you want our office to participate in, please let me know. We'll be happy to do it. We'll be happy to present. We've been hitting the road a lot to issue proclamations, certificates of recognition, celebrating people, events. I haven't told anybody no, and I don't I don't intend on telling anybody no, as long as I'm here. So anybody who wants to have this, please let me know as soon as possible. And also if there's anything that your organization or group is supporting in terms of seeking funding or applying for grants, please let us know as well. We'll be happy to sit down and discuss how we can support you, write letter of supports. So with that, I'll close. If there's not any more questions or concerns from anybody.
Eric?
I want to know, what are y'all doing for the disability community with the floods and everything? I know back then, they didn't have places open where y'all could accept people with disabilities with medical issues. Have they looked at that anymore?
When you say the floods, what do you mean?
Like the hurricane when you had to have evacuations, they didn't have places where they could put people with breathing machines or wheelchairs and turn up.
Well, like I say, this Hurricane Francine, this administration was, pretty responsive. We had a whole slate of shelters, statewide and impacted areas. I'm glad to say that there were no fatalities. But it does open up our eyes, our awareness to where we need to stay ready, and be ready, all times of the year. So that's why we're making it, our business to have this topic open every quarter, at least for us to host discussion and take meaningful actions to always be improving, making sure that systems are ready. So again, I think that we were prepared, and luckily nothing tremendously bad has happened. Hopefully, and our federal partners have seemed more interested than ever to strengthen the relationships with our state. FEMA, public health, I think they've been really strong in wanting to continue building those bridges to ensure that we just stay ready.
I gotta look more at the nursing homes too, how to evacuate them from getting out the nursing.
We look at everything, Eric. So I think there needs to be more buy-in from a lot of our state agencies. Not to name names, but we're gonna take whatever we see as deficiencies from Francine and just build, and just do what we can on the front end.
The reason why I'm asking, because I had two friends drowned in the foot. They couldn't transport. That's the concern with people that have disability. They not trained to handle people with machines. Medical people, if you're not medical, people are scared to touch you if you're not medical, if you're not doctors, or if you're not ambulance people, because they afraid of the transporting that getting sued if you touching that person the wrong way. That's why I was asking that question. If y'all looking at some of the mobility, how quickly to transfer people and going storms.
Yes, and and I'm sorry that what was this in the 2016 flood?
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely we, with things like MDAC and our meeting, a lot of these issues can come into that space, and we want to make sure that we have all of the state department to address everything that comes up from our advocates and interested parties.
Do we have any public comment? Jill.
You say the gold awards were in December. Didn't you just have gold awards? I thought they were annual. I thought y'all just had the gold awards.
We just had them last year.
You were looking at it. So that don't need.
Yeah, I wasn't with the department last year, but I was fortunate enough to be invited to participate. It happened so fast. So every year around November, December is the typical time we have to go to the books.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, no other comments. The report requires no action and will be placed on file. The next item for business is lunch. If there is no objection.
There is, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm to do my report and I need to leave like right after I eat lunch. So can I do, mine is really, really quick. It's elderly affairs. I'm next on the agenda before lunch.
So you want to go first after lunch or now?
No, I don't go now. It's really quick, I promise. I want to eat lunch too. So I'm Sherry Crane with the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. My report's on the yellow. It does statistical information, and it's basically for the new people, new faces that I see. It kind of describes our programs just a little bit. If you look on the second page, under the ombudsman at the very top, it just gives some information on the month of October.
which is Residents' Rights Month. And then it also marks the 50th anniversary of the Capital Area Agency on Aging, which will celebrate during their senior fair on October 17th, which is today. And then kind of gives a consumer voice link for more information on all of that you can go to. You go to the next section, it's about our elderly protective services. For those people that have been in this room for the last year, you know that we had an audit and we requested more positions for our investigators, and we were granted that in the last session. So we are in the process of filling those 16 positions. And I think as of today, we have either 12 or 13 that have actually been filled and the rest have been advertised. So, hopefully by next year, we will have a good idea of how those positions were able to decrease the caseload on our current investigators. Did have one typographical error when it breaks down the number of reports of abuse. It says as of the end of June, it should actually be September because it's the end of the quarter, not the end of the year. And then on the next page, at the top, it talks about our resource centers that we have. And then MIPA, which is our yearly grant that we submit a proposal for. It's actually 3 separate little grants to help with low income subsidy and medical savings plans, as well as helping applicants apply for Medicare Part D counseling and Part D enrollment. That enrollment opens every year on October 15th. So that was just 2 days ago. So of course, we don't have any data on that yet of how far that's going. Recent news, we kind of just little blurb that we always like to include until the end of November or the 1st of November because of hurricane season. So getaggameplan.org has a lot of information on it. Also to talk about our collaborative efforts with MDAC. And Eric, I wanted to kind of like touch base on what you were just discussing about your 2 friends that passed away. I know how you feel. I had one too. But I also want you to urge you to have them contact their local emergency preparedness, because most parishes have in their local emergency office a list of those constituents that have a need for evacuation, and you can get on that list and they will put them as a priority. If you need any information, you can just either call me or text me and I'll give you some more information on that.
Okay.
That is it. Told you it was fast. I can talk fast.
Are there any comments? Questions? Hearing none, there requires no action to be placed on file. Thank you, Ms. Crane. If there's no objection, the meeting will recess for lunch. No objections? Right, it is now 12:10. We will reconvene as